Coming up, Valley preschools and daycare centers in crisis mode. How and why some are closing classrooms and turning families away.
The battle over abortion heating up in Minnesota. How pro-choice advocates are speaking up with a warning tonight.
Plus, Afghan refugees will soon be arriving in the Red River Valley. How the resettlement process is moving more quickly than usual. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
Good evening, everyone. Preschool and child care providers in Fargo say they're at their breaking point. They can't hire enough people to keep up with skyrocketing demand.
Some are closing classrooms and turning families away. While investigating, I discovered they're now calling on state officials for help. Allie West searched for weeks before finding a preschool willing to take her child.
I actually told my husband the other day, you know, if I knew it was going to be this difficult, maybe I would have never had a child, as bad as it sounds.
But in order to enroll her child at Small Wonders in Fargo, West had to first agree to work at the school, where they have a critical staffing shortage. It's a common problem for all preschools and daycare providers in the Valley, including Chelsea Steinlich, owner of Bright Futures Learning Center in Fargo.
It has been extremely stressful. A lot of overtime hours, a lot of stress on teachers, a lot of staffing shortages.
Staffing shortages have forced Steinlich to close classrooms, turn families away, and increase rates. The latter move aimed at increasing pay for her staff members, which currently average $10 to $15 an hour. During the height of the pandemic, state governments offered preschool and daycare providers grants to help retain staff and keep their doors open. But for Steinlich and others, the funding ran out earlier this spring.
It's frustrating that as a community, there's not additional resources for families to have quality childcare programs or even after-school services.
Both Steinlich and Cassie Wagen, the assistant director at Creative Minds Preschool, say the solution they need now is more state funding and state programs aimed at recruiting and training qualified workers for their industry.
We're putting a lot more on our teachers in this field than I think is what is sustainable. And so currently, I don't think that childcare is going in a direction that's going to be positive for anyone.
Chris Jones, the executive director for North Dakota's Department of Human Resources, says he agrees with the solution suggested by the child care providers. In the short term, he says the state will provide more grant funding later this month, though could not say exactly how much. Long term, he supports more state funding for public-private partnerships formed to support the industry.
And if we don't begin to take this child care deficit, this child care deserts we have across the state seriously, we could be seriously hurting our economy going forward.
Now, the other challenge in all this right now is the rising cost for parents. Cassie with Creative Minds tells us the cost for one family sending 4 children to preschool is $36,000 a year.
We're hearing more tonight from the city commissioner who had the lone no vote yesterday in a Fargo bar's months-long battle to keep its doors open. Fargo commissioners voted to require the Africa Bar and Nightclub to either sell its liquor license within the next 30 days or have it revoked. But Commissioner Tony Garrick says he wanted the license to be revoked on the spot.
She said, give me a chance. Give me a chance to do this. She's been an owner of that bar since the beginning, since 2019. She just wasn't acting as the owner because it was basically fraudulent paperwork. They said she was the owner, but she wasn't.
We asked Commissioner Garrick how soon other Fargo businesses with liquor licenses could face a similar fate with both the City Commission and the Liquor Control Board. Garrick responded, quote, not soon enough.
If you're not running the bar properly, you lose your license. I don't care if it makes you sad or not. And that sounds heartless, but I'm sorry, that's not what we're here for. We're here for the safety of the public.
Management of the African nightclub declined to speak with our news team today.
Abortion rights advocates are warning their supporters, saying the threat to legal abortion is growing in Minnesota and across the country. DFL activists point to the heartbeat bill introduced in the Minnesota House and an expected ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court, which they say threatens Roe v. Wade. While some activists are expressing concerns about the heartbeat bill, the bill's sponsor says he doesn't expect it to pass.
This bill would take advantage of the anti-choice, anti-Roe Supreme Court majority by banning abortion before many even know they are pregnant.
Governor Walz has been very clear that he is not going to sign any pro-life legislation whatsoever.
The Supreme Court announced earlier this week that justices will hear oral arguments on a Mississippi law beginning December 1st.
Nearly 50 Afghan refugees will soon be resettled in Fargo, fleeing Taliban control in their home country. Valley News Live's Nishay Taylor spoke with the North Dakota state official who oversees resettlement to learn more about how the process works.
49 Afghan citizens will take refuge in the city of Fargo starting at the end of the month. But there's much about resettlement that is not widely known.
When they arrive in the United States, they'll be settled onto military bases to complete an extensive, long background examination and health screenings, getting their COVID shots, getting other vaccinations that they need.
Daniel Hanaher, who is the North Dakota Field Director for the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, says those resettling in the area have already been fully vetted and hold special immigrant visas. He also says the process for handling these refugees differs from what normally happens.
Here, a little more rapidly than many others because people in refugee camps often are there for up to 19 years or more. I believe on average it's a 6 to 9 year wait for most people even getting into the process to the United States.
When it comes to how many refugees can be accommodated in a city, Hanaher says it's partially based on available services.
Annually, quarterly, in fact, we have quarterly consultation with our partners at the city, at the county, at the state, and the healthcare providers, the school system, social services. What are the capacities needed to support the numbers that we're expecting?
We also asked Hanaher about the cost to taxpayers for resettling just one refugee.
I don't know that we really have a singular number because each case is different, each situation is different.
Hanaher says the organization's goal is to help families become self-sufficient as quickly as possible. This includes providing help with applying for Social Security cards so refugees can begin the process of entering the workforce. In Fargo, Nishay Taylor, Valley News Live.
We're told the refugees will begin arriving in Fargo by the end of this month, with all arrivals ending by March.
If you are considering getting the flu shot, some doctors say now is a good time. Pediatricians recommend adults and children older than 6 months should get the shot by Halloween, regardless of what flu season is like. The CDC also says on its website that everyone should get the shot by the end of October. We're told this is especially important for young people who are not yet eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. According to a report from CNN, unvaccinated people have a greater risk of being infected with both flu and coronavirus at the same time and ending up in the hospital. The U.S. House has passed a bill tonight to prevent a government shutdown at the end of the month. It passed 220 to 211. Government funding was set to expire September 30th. The stopgap bill would extend funding and keep the government open through December 3rd. The Biden administration takes a swipe at the criminal aspect of cryptocurrency. Officials imposed sanctions today against SUAX, which U.S. officials accuse of conducting business with hackers. The sanctions forbid the company from having access to U.S. markets. This marks the most direct action the White House has taken against ransomware groups who freeze computers and demand payment through cryptocurrency, which is harder to trace.
FBI Director Christopher Wray said today that social media plays a significant role in racially motivated crimes. He was on Capitol Hill testifying in a hearing before the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs.
You know, some of these same people before might have been stewing away in, the basement or the attic, one part of the country, and not communicating with the other. But today, terrorism moves at the speed of social media.
The Justice Department says by October 1st, the FBI will elevate hate crimes and criminal civil rights violations to the highest level national threat priority. It'll also make addressing hate crimes a priority for all 56 of the Bureau's field offices. That means more resources for hate crime prevention and investigations.
The U.S. military has unveiled the uniform prototype for its newest branch, the Space Force. Members known as Guardians will wear a navy blue jacket with a series of silver buttons running diagonally from the right right shoulder down the front of the chest. The 6 buttons have the Space Force seal on them. Guardians also have a more casual uniform for physical training that includes a t-shirt with Space Force written in capital letters across the back. Former President Donald Trump established the Space Force in 2019. It's the first new service branch since the Air Force was created back in 1947. Well, unfortunately, we're still receiving calls from viewers who are having a reception problem with the Channel 11 signal. DirecTV continues to tell us their equipment is not properly receiving our signal. Our signal is functioning rather normally, and we hope you remain patient. We're working together to get the issue fixed as soon as possible.
Still ahead tonight, the latest on the Gabby Petito homicide investigation. What we're learning about her last contacts with family members.
But first, Hutch joins us with a look at your forecast. We'll be right back.